Hello everyone, my name is Chetan and welcome to the development screencast of my project Legends of the Sword for the course TDDD23 Computer Game and Design at Linköping University. I have developed this course using Unreal Engine 4 and I'd like to start by introducing you guys to the main character, which is Greystone. He's an Infinity Blade character and is available for free at the Engine marketplace. So I have downloaded this character with all its animation and soundtracks, and I've used it as the main character of my project. So first, we can talk about the variables that I have set up for my main character. I have divided this in different categories. One is the player base stats. It has the health, the mana, base, strength, basically all player related things or variables. The next category is player booleans, which are variables, uh, for example, is attacking, is dead, can guard, cast heals, stuff like that. The other one is the inventory items. So in inventory, we have multiple things like gold, green plants, raw meat, and etc. The next one is the HUD category, and these are the main screens. We have different widgets also, but these are the main ones. Then there's a magic category where we have like the health rate, mana regeneration rate, and the cost of each spell. And then we have like a harvesting folder where we have just two variables, harvest current and harvest max, which is the rate of harvesting, I say. And these are the variables that are like commonly used, so I just kept it here. So we can get started and look at the blueprint of our character. So first thing first, when the play starts, then this event begin play function is called, and then we add a widget which is called RPG HUD to the viewport. This basically shows the health and the mana and the hunger bar of the player character. And after adding it to the viewport, we also uh, set the interact radius, and we set background music, which is basically an Elvin Drell music, which I like a lot. And then we call the hunger function, which basically sets decreases increases the hunger by time, so decreases the value of hunger. And when the hunger is 0, then the player health will start to decrease, so before that the player has to eat something. Uh, the next thing is the combo attack that I've set up. It is set up on the press of the left click of the mouse button. So as you can see that we have a variable called attack count, and uh, it can vary from 0, 1, and 2. So these are basically the count of the left clicks. On one count, it does a simple slash. On two clicks, it does a different slash, and in any other clicks, like more than two clicks, 3 clicks, 4 clicks, 5 clicks, it does a different attack. And each attack is linked with a soundtrack, which is pretty nice to have, I think. And whenever he is attacking, we set the is attacking variable as true, and whenever he is not attacking, then we save the attack basically. And then we call this reset combo function, which basically sets everything to false. The next function is taking damage. So this is an event, any damage this is already available. So whenever the collision component of our player is invaded by any other actor, then he deals some damage, which we can define different damages for different actors, right? I have also added a soundtrack for this, and I have had like three soundtracks. uh, I've created this Hurt SFX, which randomly chooses between three soundtracks. And then we decrease the health with the amount of damage, and if it health goes down below 0, then basically the player is dead. Then we play a death animation of the player, we stop the movement, and then we add a widget which basically gives an option to the player to reload, quit, or load a previous game, and then we add it to the viewport. The I can also talk about this function, which is the hunger function. So on the left side of our screen, we can see a hunger bar, uh, which is basically a realistic implementation, I think, because a player get hungry over times, and if he doesn't eat anything, then his health starts decreasing little by little. And to instead of reducing the health by some amount, I am dealing the damage of 0.03. So this is basically reducing the health, but like in a better way, and then calling the hunger function again. So the next function is attack damage. So this is the damage that the player does when he attacks someone. And when he attacks, then we check if the actor has the tag enemy, and only if he has the tag enemy, then we deal some kind of damage to him. And in this case, we add the base strength and the sword damage mod, and then deal that amount of damage. And I have set this variables up in such a way that as we level up, we increase our base strength and the sword damage mod also. The next function is the magic mode. This is a pretty interesting one. So when you press R, and if the menu is screen is not already open, then we open it and we add this magic shortcut, which I can show you here, uh, to the screen, and the player has to select any one of the option that he wants. Either he can cast a fireball, an ice spell, or heal. And when he selects that, then we set it to a magic mode variable which we have created for our player, and we can get that by creating a reference to the player, which we do when this widget is constructed. So uh, coming back here, we have added to widget to the viewport, and then we set the mouse cursor true, and then we set the time dilation to 0.1. So what this does is it slows down time to send 10% of the actual value, so that we can actually choose one of the cast and uh, use that spell in real time. So when we press R again, and this becomes true, then we go here, we remove the menu from the screen, we set everything to false, and we set the time back to normal. This is like a really cool thing to have, I think, and this is inspired by the game Fallout 4. Uh, so I really wanted to implement this. The next thing is about control screen. So whenever you press C, a control screen opens and it tells you about the controls, and you can press C again to close it. The other thing is the magic mode. So as you can see that we have set the magic mode from here to either 0, 1, or 2, and we can get that magic mode sorry, and on the basis of what it is, we can do different casts. So 0 is for fireball, and 1 is for ice, and 2 is for health. And then we can uh, set casting as true, and adds a delay. So this delay is the animation length which is required. So for fireball it is 0.78, for ice it is 1.8, and for heal it is 1. And then when the casting is complete, then we can set the speed back to normal, and then we call the mana regeneration function because we have used some mana to cast these spells, and player need to have mana for I think almost all the time. The next three functions are like the cast fireball function, ice spike function, and the healing function. So these are basically the implementation of each spell, and they have a damage function hooked up in it, and the animations which are being played. So how much mana is it required, and how much damage are these gonna do, and where are these gonna spawn? All this logic is in these three functions. And this is the mana regen function. It just has a retriggerable delay of 0.2 second, and it increases mana uh, as like 0.01 every 0.2 second. Then we have this interacting function. So this interacting function lets you sorry interact with any actor which implements this interact BPI interface. And there's a interacting radius also. So if the player is in with the interactor radius with this actor, then we can call this interact function, and the player is allowed to interact with that actor. And in this case we have four interactable items. One is the green plant, the yellow plant, the animal which is deer, and the iron ore. This function is just to call the menu screen. So whenever you press M, you can the menu screen opens, and menu screen has link with three other screens, which is the inventory screen, the skill screen, and the crafting screen, which I will go into detail a bit later in this video. But that is all about the main character. Maybe I can show you the event graph and the state machine of the character as well. So this is the state machine. So at entry, the character is idle, or he can jog, and from idle he can either go to heal, the fireball, ice spike, or he can jump, and he can land the jump. So each of the state has an animation hooked up to it, and each animation uh, is like this, and it has a notifier at some point. So if I pause this and if I go here, so this heal is triggered at this time, right, which is uh, 0.03 seconds. So I would say any time between 0.03 second is good. And using this notifier we can call a function uh, and actually call the heal function to implement heal and increase the ability, increase the health of our player. And similarly, each of these states have different animations, and they have different notifiers added to it. And if we check the event graph, so we can check that anim notifier heal. So this is the notifier heal, and this in turns call the heal function. And this is the anim notify ice. This is called the ice spike function. This is the cast fireball function. So these are the functions which are in the blueprint here. So these functions. So that makes it pretty clear, I think. Uh, One more thing about the main character is the game XP function. So it's the experience point that we have. So whenever we kill an enemy, we get some XP, and we add that XP to the current XP. And if the value is greater than the value of the next level, which by default is I think yeah 20, and if it is greater, then we can go to the next level. We decrease our XP by the next level, and we increase our level, we increase our skill points, we increase the base strength, the max health, max mana, base defense, and then we multiply the next level round to 1.5 times. So basically 20 becomes 30, and then we uh, set the difference and to the current XP, and we call it all over again so that we can level up again. So level 2 would be at 30, level 3 would be at 45, level 4 will be 1.5 times of 45, which is I would say around 67 something. So it increases like that. And similar implementation is for the crafting abilities. So we have crafting XP as well. And whenever we craft more things like create health potions and mana potions or cook food, then our crafting XP increases, and we kind of level up in that way as well. So now we can talk about the enemies that we have in this project. And for the enemies, I have two enemies: the Crux character and the Severog character. These are also Infinity Blade characters, and I have imported all the animation and sound effects from the Unreal Engine Marketplace and use those. So both of these characters have similar implementation. I will take you only through one of them. So this is the Severog character, and he is the boss for our first level. And I can quickly take you through the event graph thing. So unlike the player character, it is not controlled by any uh, player or by mouse or keyboard. So whenever we start the play, then we get a reference to our player character. We set it to the player ref so that we can actually deal damage to the player and use anything if we want. And we set these character tags to Severog, which is enemy and alive. And whenever we deal damage, whenever Greystone deal damage to Severog or any enemy, then he checks whether this enemy tag is there or not. And a life tag is removed when the enemy is dead, so that we know that he is dead. Yeah. And we also add a health widget, which is basically this bar which hovers over his head and tells you that, and this becomes visible when we are in a certain radius of the enemy. Other than this, we have the next sequence we call the patrolling function. So patrolling function is basically we have a patrol point in the map, and we have a patrol radius which is like 65,000, which is a bit more for Severok since he is the stage boss. And he will just patrol around this radius, around this point on this radius for some time until he sees the player. And when he sees the player, he will start moving towards the player, like he will call this attack player function and move towards the player. And for seeing the player, actually there's a thing called pawn sensing, which you can see here. So this green line depicts the pawn sensing, and you can see that he has a side radius of 5,000. So if the player comes anywhere in this radius, he will see it and follow it, and when it gets into the player vicinity, it will start attacking the player. uh, yeah. So the next function is attacking the player. So there's a function called AI move to, and we get the player character. And since this is a single person game, this player index 0 means the actual player which we are having right now, so we don't have to get it by name, we can just get it by index. And we call this function AI move to, and when the enemy is in the player vicinity, which is 125, then starts to attack the player. And when it finally reaches uh, with in the vicinity of the player, then I have created this face player function so that you cannot sneak up behind it and just kill it from behind, and he doesn't know that he's being attacked. So the first time you attack it, it will know that you have started attacking it, and it will face you and will attack you. Yeah, and Severog has three different kind of attack combinations which we randomly choose from. So attack 1, attack 2, attack 3, and it has a kind of a similar state machine to our Greystone player character, where it goes from idle to attack 1 or attack 2 or attack 3, and it has different animations hooked up to it. And these delays are the amount of time required to run through those animations. Yeah. And when he is using those attacks, then he cannot move, and after that we set it to moving again. uh, and then we call the attack player again until and unless the enemy is dead or the player is dead. And this is the phase player while attacking function. So what it does is basically it gets the rotation of the player ref. So this player ref is our Greystone character, and it gets the rotation. It rotates towards the player and start attacking, basically. And this is the follow player on seeing function. So this is the on see pawn function. So if we go here and if we go to pawn sensing, sorry, pawn sensing, yeah, then we have this on events, a different kind of events. So if we view this on pawn sensing, then it takes us to this function. And so basically it checks whether if he's it's dead or not, if the player is dead or not, and if he's not dead, then he attacks the player. Yeah. And then we have the stake damage function for the enemy, which is this is the amount of damage which Greystone deals, which is zero point 0.2 initially and increases as we level up, and we decrease it by the health, and we kind of refresh the health visit reference, so the health bar above it reflects the correct health all the time. And then we check whether the health is 0 or not. If it is 0, then we mark every is dead as true, we can mark his attacking as false, and we can disable the movement. Oh, and we can play one of the two death animations that I have, and then we give the game XP of killing, and then we remove the alive tag from the character tags, and then we respawn a portal and a treasure chest at a certain location. So since this is the boss, we spawn these two. The portal will allow us to go to the next level, and the treasure chest will basically give you gold. And you can set the amount of gold. I have set it by default to 100. Yeah. And this function is like for the attack trace, like the amount of damage which Severog deals to Greystone, our player character. And it is a similar implementation to what Greystone had. And each attack has different damage capability. So attack 1 has zero point 0.2, attack 2 has 0.25, and attack 3, this is a special attack. This is a spell cast, and it has an animation and a particle system linked to it, and it deals the most damage, which is 0.35. And since initially at level 1 our health is 1, so we can just die after 3 attacks. But since we level up, so we can increase our max health with time. So the next thing I think I can talk about is the interactable items that I have. So currently I have 3 items: uh, the green plant, the yellow plant, the animal deer, and the treasure chest also, I think, and uh, and the iron ore. Yeah. So every one of them has a similar implementation. So I will take you through one of them, which is the green plant. So the green plant implement the interact BPI interface, and by implementing this interface, we can use an interact function, which allows us to interact with the player. Yeah, this is that event interact. So it checks whether if the plant is already harvested or not. If not, then we can get the reference of player and we can harvest the plant again. And you can see that this is the harvesting function, which is called from there. And this basically just check whether if we are harvesting or not, and if we are harvesting, uh, then it just adds the plant to our directory, and we are not allowed to move away from the plant while harvesting it. Uh, and when the harvesting is completed, then it will be added to our inventory, and we after that after the harvesting is completed, we set the visibility as false, so it will just disappear from the map. And we call this respawn timer, which basically respawn it after every 45 seconds. Yeah. So all my interactables are made in the same way. uh, yeah. Now since we're done with this, we can finally talk about the level design. So I know that there are many maps already available at Unreal Marketplace, but I wanted to create my own map, and I have sculpted this map uh, from scratch, which was pretty difficult at the beginning, but when I got into it, it actually became quite fun. So I used the landscape version and the 4 layers version tool, sorry, of Unreal Engine 4.2 to actually sculpt this. And yeah, I have added a bunch of actors. The red things you see are actors. These are basically plants or deers or interactable items, and uh, enemies. Yeah. uh, Now I think we can talk about the widgets that I have, and I had to create. So I have a lot of widgets, and one of maybe we can talk about the menu screen first. And so this is the menu screen, and it every text is kind of uh, linked with the or binded with the player reference. So this one is binded with the get text 2. This one is binded with get text 3, and if we check here, so we have different bindings for everyone. So get text 3 is basically getting the mana from the player and returning it to our widget, and similar implementation for all of them. And these are actually buttons which takes you to a different widget. So this button, I think I can show you the button. Yeah, the on click event of the button. Yeah, it might be here. Yeah. So whenever this button is clicked, we go to the inventory screen, and which is added to the viewport. And the inventory screen looks like this. Yeah, so this basically shows of all the items that we have, and if we hover over it, then it gives us the name of the item, like the green plant or the yellow plant or the cooked meat, the number of gold. Everything is linked with the player reference and is updated in real time, so this is pretty nice. And we can on viewing the on click event of this button, it takes us back to the menu screen. Yeah. And if we click on some else button, then we can directly go to the crafting screen or the skill screen as well. So this has a similar, every screen has a similar implementation like this. And it was pretty confusing at the beginning, but once I created this screen, it was pretty nice, and it was pretty fun to develop this. uh, Now when I have completed everything, I wanted to add a quest to the game. And for adding the quest, I had to get an old man character, which basically is in the house which is not burned and he's hurt, and I had to add a quest screen. So this quest screen basically have different text which I can manipulate. So for example, let's see, this is the text and I have added multiple animations of fading in and fading out for this text. And this is the just the placeholder text, and I can show you that this is binded with this get text 0 function. So if we go there and we look at get text 0, then you can see that we get a dialog text here, and this dialog text can be updated from anywhere else. So for example, let me show you the blueprint of the old man where I have uh, set up all the quest system. Yeah. So as you can see that this looks pretty big, and actually the implementation is quite complicated as well. But what we do is we check the quest progress, and the quest progress is an integer between 0, 1, 2, and 3. So 0 is basically when you go to the actor and you try to interact with him, and you can when you press E and you are in the interact radius, then you can set this dialog box, and he says that help, can I get some healing potion? And then when you press E again and then you press then it sets the quest progress to 1. So at this point you can just run away from the character and not do anything at all, or you can go to the character and press E again, and after pressing E you can see that uh, yeah, you can see that he needs a health potion, and he is asking that will you bring me one. And yeah, and then there's like a different fade in fade out animations for each one of these questions. And when you finally complete the quest, then he gives rewards you with gold. I think it's in this part, yeah, here. When you finally bring him a healing potion, then one of the healing potion will be taken from you, and you will get like 100 gold, and then you can use this dialogue text again, like thank you, you saved my life, I can reward you with gold. And then he kind of give you a long quest that they destroyed the whole village and stole the power of the legendary sword. They came from the portal at the top of the mountain, and it is up to you to now save humanity. So here at this point we have completed the first quest, and we have like initiated our journey, and now we know that we have to go to the top of the mountain and fight some enemies. Yeah. And so every time you come back and you try to interact with him again, he is just gonna say that thank you and have good luck on your journey. So this is the quest system that I created. I know that it looks a bit messy. Yeah, here it is, the last one. Whenever after completing all the things and giving him the healing potion and you press E, then he will say this thing again and again. So this I think sums up everything which I have created. I have created one more level as well, but that one is still a work in progress. Uh, and when you complete this level, then you are teleported to that level. Uh, at that level, you can roam around and fight an enemy which is there and explore things, but that's about it. You cannot save or anything. The only bug or the thing that I'm worried about in this thing is the saving functionality. So currently the saving functionality works, but it only stores the location of the actor and not the items that he have or the levels that he have. Uh, so that is one thing that I couldn't fix due to time constraint, but I think that is an easy fix and I can do that anytime. So thank you for listening to me and have a nice day.